Welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. I am your host, Sherry Ricard. I'm bringing you weekly interviews with fascinating guests, with action-packed episodes, highly relatable stories that help women reboot, regroup, and reinvent themselves in family, community, lifestyle, and business. And of course, always committed to keeping it real. Now let's dive in.
The loss of a loved one is a nearly universal emotional crisis. Unprocessed grief and painful feelings can be buried, leaving you to feel numb. But there is hope. Certified grief counselor, RN, and author Sherry Ricard shares her story of how to cope in her first book, Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey, after the loss of her 17-year-old son. This book, along with Sherry's other books, are available on Amazon as well as on sherryricard.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. Thank you so much for joining me. I have, as always, an amazing guest. Her name is Melody Hernandez, and she has over 15 years experience in brand development, marketing, content, social media, digital strategy, and e-commerce for high-profile celebrities, media properties, and consumer brands. She just has a knack for creating and developing brands, from taking an idea all the way to creation, monetization, and ultimately becoming a trusted source in branding and marketing. And I know you guys had a lot of questions coming in when I hit my social media, IG, and I was in my stories talking about hit me with questions. And believe me, guys, I got all of your questions, and I am going to talk to Melody about those today. So I am so glad that you tuned in. Welcome to the show, Melody.
Having me.
Absolutely. So I was reading a little bit of your bio and very impressed. You have a long career, but you look so young to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, when did you start? When you were 12?
I mean, you would think, if I look back at my path as early as middle school and high school, those extracurriculars definitely contributed to the path that I'm on now, for sure. But yeah, I think I like to say that my career path is definitely that of the millennial story. I think we have grown up with a lot more access to things and information. So a lot of people my age and my peers have been able to accomplish a lot in a shorter amount of time.
Oh, definitely. There's one thing that when I travel, and I do a lot of speaking, and the thing that I love the most, I think, is talking to the sorority girls. And I realized that they're just really a lot smarter than me. And I really don't know when that happened. If I'm just losing brain cells, or they have so much more accessible to them in school, in high school, and college than I ever had. And just the computer access and design and everything that they want to go into, it seems like they have access to that goes way back. And when you look at a woman that's in her 40s and 50s and she looks back in high school, we didn't have those abilities. It was literally, we learned in the field. Yeah. And then we may have graduated in something that has nothing to do with our passion that we have or where we're working in life right now. And it's things that we actually have to learn in the field and develop those skills over time. Whereas a lot of the college girls come out of college and they're just well equipped to go right into the workforce.
Yeah. I think also, I learned early on that if you're somewhat street smart, you have a little bit of a level up. And I will say, after college, every job that I was applying for had asked for work experience. And there's the eternal conundrum of how can I get work experience if you require it? And so being from LA, growing up here, you have friends whose parents are producers or in the industry. So I actually had a friend whose father was an executive producer on Buffy. And after college, I said, John, I'm going to put you on my resume and say that I worked for you for X amount of years. And I think, I don't recommend that for if you're going to be a doctor or something that is more mechanical in that way. But yeah, that helped me have a foot ahead of other people. And, you know, sometimes you just got to think on your toes in that way. And so out of college, I was able to get a better first job because I lied.
She lied. Yes, we do not recommend that, but you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And
yeah, I don't regret it.
Look how far you've come. So you started in public relations.
Yes.
And you had public relations, and Sephora stuck out to me on your bio because I love Sephora. It is just, I could stay in there forever and spend way too much money. But so with public relations with Sephora, and then you were also with Beach Bunny Swimwear as well. Mm-hmm. But going into the branding aspect, when you talk about you being a branding expert as you are, how do you take, and this is, so I got this question over and over, how do you take a brand new business and begin a brand? Like where do you start, or maybe 3 steps in starting with the beginning of a brand?
I would say the first and most important step is identifying who you are as a brand, what you stand for, and who your customer is. It sounds like such an obvious first step, but a lot of people don't take the time to figure that out. As getting as granular as who is my customer, if it's a woman, how old is she, where does she live, where does she shop, what period of her life is she in? And taking the time to do that is so important because it'll help you create a frame around your overall strategy. And then also just as a brand, identifying what you're about and what you stand for. I think especially nowadays, millennials and Gen Zs, they are, as much as they are interested in a brand and the product, they are equally as interested in who the brand is and what they stand for and what they're about. People are just a lot smarter. And like I mentioned before, people have a lot more access to information. So it takes a customer 2 seconds to Google a brand and see if their values are aligned with that brand.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And I know that, so you do branding, but you're also the general manager, correct, for Boyfriend Perfume?
Correct.
And so with Boyfriend Perfume, if you go to that website, it has an obvious appeal to women, but I don't see a particular age. I see that it could be appealing to girls as well as women, older women as well. Yeah. But it just has that, you immediately are attracted as a woman to that website. So what was the thought process behind creating that brand, Boyfriend Perfume?
Sure. So it was an interesting process because the brand, Kate Walsh launched the brand about 10 years ago on her own, not a licensing deal. She decided she was going to do that herself. And, you know, she saw a lot of success. And back then the brand referred to boyfriend as he, him. The packaging was very different. And there was a period where things became too hectic and she decided to put the brand on a pause. And during this time, Digital Media Management, which I'm actually an agency that I'm a partner in, we were Kate Walsh's digital managers. And we decided in 2017, we approached her. We said, hey, we hear the noise in your social audience that people are wanting this brand to come back. Let's partner, rebrand it, and bring it back as a direct-to-consumer brand. So as you know, which DTC means there's low risk. You can really decide on your minimums. You're not at the mercy of a retail partner just yet. So that's what we did. And so with the initial rebranding, we had to take a step back and decide what is Boyfriend today. Again, 10 years ago was so long ago. I think the political climate, everything was completely different. Even a name like Boyfriend could be controversial for some because it's, you know, what does that mean? Do you have to have a boyfriend? Do you have to like men to like this fragrance? And so we went that deep when we were going into the rebrand. Because we didn't want to change the name because that's how people remembered the name. So that was a huge part of going back to the drawing board is figuring out who this customer was, and we decided it's not just women. We didn't want to annihilate the largely female audience that the brand originally had, but we decided this is a unisex fragrance, and we decided that we were no longer going to refer to boyfriend as he or him.
Okay.
So we don't apply a gender to the brand. So that is why we also decided the tagline. We brainstormed a lot around the tagline, and we finally came up with the only one you need. And the idea behind that is, no matter if you have a boyfriend, if you want a boyfriend, if you like boys or you don't, if you're married or whatever, this is the only one you need. This product is the only boyfriend you need. And so we did that so as not to alienate any of our customers. And through that, the original packaging from 10 years ago previously was black. The box was black and it had male names all around the box. And so that we decided we could not do because,
Right.
again, to not alienate people. And so we removed that. We decided to also go for a brighter, more light and airy color, which was the white box with the gold trimming.
Yes.
And specifically because we had Instagram in mind, which I think a lot of brands, which all brands really do nowadays, is we wanted to make something Instagrammable. And so we took all of those elements in our thought process behind the rebrand, and no detail was too small, because it was important to, since we were coming back, to really get it right, but to also not alienate the original customer, who today is probably a little bit older, because again, this was 10 years ago. So
Right.
we were catering to an older audience who we like to call the OG boyfriend customer. We're also catering to Kate Walsh's fans, who could skew a little younger. And then also this millennial audience, because we were a direct-to-consumer brand. Not a lot of people are comfortable with buying fragrance online, but there is this younger audience who is used to shopping online. And so we were the website, going back to your original question, making that something that was attractive to everyone was really important, not to skew too young and too bubbly to alienate our older audience, but not to be too mature and feel out of reach for our younger customers as well.
Right. And that was one of the other questions that I also received, was when it comes to colors and branding, and you mentioned that you went from black to white with gold trim, and it is very light, and I looked at it, and it's beautiful, and it's easy on the eyes to look at that rather than to look at black, in my opinion. But when you're choosing colors, the question was, do colors matter? And the second part of that question that I received was, how do you know? How do you know what colors? Are there particular colors that go together because of a color wheel? Like you always want to put blue with yellow, or is there some type of formula to putting particular colors together? And how important is it?
Yeah, I mean, I at the end of the day, I think it's preference. There is a science behind colors, and there's a lot of studies behind colors. Yellow is supposed to elicit happiness, and different colors are supposed to create different or evoke different emotions. So some brands, will go down that path. There's also Pantone every year has a color of the year for the following year that a lot of brands latch onto. So, there are different places and things out in the land of the internet or in research where you
Right.
can kind of decide what is best for you. But I think it's also, as old school, it's just general aesthetic. I think for us, because going back to digital media management, because we were marketers before anything, we know how to create a really good Instagram photo. And a lot of times that's a white background or something bright that's going to catch your attention when you're scrolling in a grid of a lot of content. And so I think that's why we decided to go with this white packaging, so that it can really stand out when you're scrolling and stand out in a grid. And regardless of lighting, if it's darker or bright lighting, this white packaging can kind of have a moment on its own. And then we have our sort of outside of the packaging, we have our brand colors, which is what you see on the website and a lot of on our social media. And those are very neutral tones we thought was perfect for this brand because, again, we were trying to find this happy medium where we were catering to a large age range. Specifically, when we were rebranding, millennial pink was huge, and there's part of my team who was like, no, we have to do this pink thing, it's so in, and we have to be cool and pink and young. And but there was also the other end of things where it was really important for Kate to not be so different than what we were before, so people still recognized the brand. Right. And so we found these neutral tones to be a nice happy medium. And I will say seasonally we will switch up colors on our social media, so we'll have different color themes for seasons, but the brand ultimately has its own sort of color brand guide, but we have fun on social media and we can switch that up occasionally.
Yeah, and that brings me to a question about social media. So when you have a brand and you're trying to be seen, and when there's millions that are fighting for attention on Instagram and Facebook as well, Facebook is still in the game, but Instagram has become more popular, I guess, for in social media realm. But when you're fighting for that position to be seen, how do you do that besides the color and really great pictures? And now you can take an iPhone 11 and have great pictures. You don't have to have big budget cameras. What other tips are there to fight for position on social media? Is it going live? Is it IGTV? Is it really hashtags? There's so much out there. How do you really hone in on what is the best strategy when you're posting?
I think first and foremost is being immersed in industry trends, because I can give a strategy now, but the way social media works is it changes daily. Different platforms' algorithms change daily. So if you're immersed in trends and what is happening, your strategy should pivot. For example, Instagram for a while was prioritizing in their feed posts that were IGTV posts, but with you can choose to also have it post in feed. So they were prioritizing those posts. They were more visible because they were promoting IGTV. So we found when we did posts like that, they've got a ton of views and a ton of engagement. And now they still do really great, but you can tell from the algorithm that it's no longer as much of a priority for the platform. Facebook, the same thing. There was a point where Facebook groups were huge for Facebook. They were prioritizing those posts in their home feeds for people because that was what they were sort of pushing. And so we actually have a private Facebook group that we use just for customers. So you have to have your order number to join. And we use that for feedback and ideas and things of that nature. But then there was a point where Facebook, that was no longer as much of a priority. So I think to stand out, obviously first know what's happening and be prepared to pivot and pivot pretty quickly. Other than that, I think, we're fortunate in that Kate Walsh is the founder of the brand. So we definitely leverage her social platform and reach to, promote the brand and thereby promote growth. So we're fortunate in that sense. But I think I like to refer to Instagram specifically as, this is sort of an analogy I've created, is I look at Instagram as a window. If you're in the mall, you have a window and you're sort of window shopping. And using the mall example, depending on what's in that display in that window is what's going to determine if someone walks into that store. So we use Instagram visuals as the same way. If someone comes to our grid, they're going to look at our grid who has never seen our grid before, and they're going to decide, do I want to walk into this store? Do I want to follow this brand? So visuals are super important for the deciding factor if someone's going to use that window, so to speak, and walk into your store. So that's always been really important for us to create really solid visuals, things that are fun and captivating. Not everything is so curated too, I think was really important. We have photo shoots that we do professionally, and then we have photo shoots that we do with our cell phone, because I think that we want to provide both of those imageries because it's more relatable, I think, to someone scrolling in their feed. They can tell a professional photo versus something more organic and relatable. So having
Right.
both of those types of visuals have been really important for us. And then there's, other tricks and tools that brands are doing these days, like cross-promotional things that they do with other brands. So I think if you can identify other brands who maybe are not a competitor to you, but still within the same ethos as your brand, similar audience, leveraging their following and your following for cross-promotional giveaways or things like that. A lot of
Right.
brands doing that promotes growth. And so we've done that a lot as well. We've partnered with other brands who have a similar audience as us. And so we can gain their followers and vice versa. They can gain ours and then eventually turn those followers into customers.
Right. So do you actually leverage those that have a higher following on social media? Would you reach out to certain TV personalities or people that have, or bloggers maybe, that have a really high following to promote your brand?
Most of our cross-promotional partnerships have been other brands and not necessarily a huge following. I think engagement for us is a lot more important than the follower count. If you are a brand and you have 12,000 followers, but your engagement is through the roof and your brand is similar to your customer, is similar to ours, if you have that much engagement, chances are if we do a giveaway with you, you're going to have a lot of engagement, and we can hopefully retain some of those followers and vice versa.
Right.
So follower count is not always the deciding factor of what brands we partner with. It helps, but again, you can tell a lot more by engagement. And if the engagement is sort of in line with the follower count, that's really important to us. And then in terms of individuals, like bloggers or influencers, we have taken more of an organic approach there. When people reach out to us, we do take a look at who they are, their feed, what they're about, and if we feel like they're aligned with us. Then we always tell them we want to send you a sample first before we send you the product, because we don't want you to promote our brand if you don't really love it. So right. Fragrance is so personal, and if our scent is not for you, that's okay. But we would rather have people promoting it who genuinely love it, and we find that to be more of value to us. So when an influencer reaches out, we take the first step of offering them a sample and to see, do you like it? And if so, then let's continue a conversation of how we can work together.
Right. And I think I've noticed too, because I've gotten to where I'll have a lot of people that will send me products, which I love. I'm like, send me the products, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to use those products. And if I don't use those products, I don't promote them. But I do enjoy them sending the products and me trying them out. And then I'll also ask, other people. I may ask my daughter, hey, do you like this? Does this look like something that's, promotable? Does this look like me? Does this look like something I would talk about? And a lot of times, if I'm talking about it on social media, people know that I'm really into it because I'm very limited. And I also don't put ads in my radio show of products that I don't use myself, which a lot of podcasters think that's crazy of me, because they'll just take anybody and do an ad for them. And I don't do that, because I feel that if I'm not coming across genuine, if I'm telling you, I don't care if it's Trident gum, if Trident gum and I'm doing a promotion for them and people know I don't chew that gum, then it's not genuine. And the thing that I always want to brand myself is in Real Girl Talk is authenticity. And we really talk real stuff, and I want people to know they can trust whatever I say. So I like that that Kate wants to not just give her product to anybody that is willing to, show it on their Instagram story, but rather someone that really loves the product, because it's trust value in doing that. So kudos to her. I think that's great. And I wanted to ask you too, I had another question from one of my followers that talked about starting a brand on a budget, because I think so many times, I don't know whether it's a product or whether it's just maybe a service. I think everybody's a life coach these days, but whether it's a service that you're promoting or a product that you're promoting, when someone is beginning, everyone has a budget. So what can someone do to start a brand, whether it be a logo? Do you suggest starting a logo first, a website first? And how would you expect someone, or tips to help someone do that on a budget?
Okay, well, definitely a logo and a website is important, but if you don't have a tangible, if it's a consumer good product, if you don't have a tangible product, then you should go in the order of where you want your money to go first.
Right.
For something like branding, photography, even web developing, if there's a lot of options online these days. There's a lot of websites that allow you to do trade with other people. Everyone's trying to make it right now. So if you have friends or peers, the trade thing is a cool thing to do if you are on a budget, or to learn how to do things yourself. I can't stress that enough. I think we're in the era of information. So again, start small and keep your budget tight, put your money where it's going to get the most bang for its buck. And things like a logo, I think are wildly important for sure. But if you're only have so much money, decide where is the most important place to put that money and what can maybe come later. Or how can you get the help of people, of friends, to kind of help you create a logo and then maybe revisit it later and update it. But specifically with something like a consumer goods product, it is expensive to develop something.
Right.
I think people will look at Boyfriend and think, oh, Kate Walsh is behind it and they have all the money in the world. And I think that we're a small company, we're a startup, we are bootstrapped. We're not just like spending money recklessly. We're really smart with everything that we do. And I think that if you're financing your own project, definitely save. I think turnkey is expensive, and if turnkey, I think, comes later down the line. And for those that don't know, turnkey is where you pay one company to do all of the things for you. I would say learn and send emails and do it yourself. That's really what we did. I think, again, I keep mentioning digital media management because, again, when we relaunched this brand with Kate, our background was in digital marketing. And so we didn't know anything about product development. That was all things that we had to learn in real time. And it was, sending out emails, having meetings, kind of finding the best, the vendors with the best pricing for us that matched our minimum. So we didn't order too much in the beginning, but also vendors that also it was really important to find vendors that also their ethos matched ours. We didn't want to have a vendor, everything was local. We didn't want to have, anything that wasn't something that we could stand behind. So yeah, I would say at the beginning, create a budget first and foremost. Do your research, can figure out all the components that it takes to create a product. And once you can figure out that number, the development of your product is where your money goes first. Once you have a tangible product to sell and it's ready to hit the marketplace, which takes some time,
right?
Then you can create a secondary budget. And this is a marketing budget where now we can talk logo and we can talk the website and everything else that comes after that.
Right. And there's so much online now that you can research, and just like with YouTube, you could build a car if you watched enough YouTube videos these days. And, I always say anything worth doing takes effort, and don't expect to be an overnight success in anything that you do. you can't take the elevator
Yeah.
to success. You have to take the stairs a lot of times. And I love that analogy, because some people don't want to put in the effort. They just want the result. And that's not how life works.
Yes.
And if you have a passion for it and you really want it to be successful, you have to put in the work. And you are obviously very knowledgeable in putting in the work, because you have worked with some really great brands and amazing people, so you know what you're doing. And before I let you go, I want you to maybe tell everyone where to start if they want to reach out to someone that can help them do something, whether it's a website or helping them with branding or digital media or whatever it is. Advantages to having a team, whether it be small or large, whatever your budget is. Where would they go? Where would you direct them if they're just starting from scratch and have no idea how to build a website or logos or anything at all?
I would say build your network first. There are so many conferences available now for a lot of young people. Build your network. Find your tribe of people. I think take meetings with people. Don't be afraid to send an email to someone. Go on LinkedIn and look up people if you have someone who inspires you or motivates you, or there's someone who has a really interesting job. Take a meeting with them, ask them to lunch, but really also know what it is that you want from them, so it's not a waste of anyone's time.
Right.
And do the research. I can't stress it enough how important a network is. Whether it's, if you're trying to build a brand and you want to know where to start, or if you need info on, product testing or development or vendors, if you can build that network of people, you have more people to kind of gauge what's available and what resources are available to you. And that's why it's also important to never burn any bridges, because you never know
Right.
when someone who you've worked with in an old job or an old friend or from college, how they could be a resource for you in the future. So I would definitely start there. Build your tribe. Figure out, there might be someone else in your space who's trying to launch the same thing you are. Maybe you can partner. If you have access to these amazing conferences that exist, go to them. They, make friends there and stay in touch and schedule meetings, and don't be afraid to email. The worst that can happen is you get shut down and you carry on.
Right.
So I would say start there, ask the right questions, and be realistic with your expectations too. But you nailed it earlier when you said things take time. Creating a brand takes time. Creating a consumer brand takes time. A product development, there are different stages. There's testing, there's labs. It does not happen overnight. As much as, some of these, there are so many really great entrepreneurs out there, and maybe some people look at them and think, wow, they did that so quickly. I want to be them, but know that they are not an overnight success. That's what you see.
Right.
But there's so much labor and that goes into anything that you're passionate about. But if you're passionate about it, then it's a labor of love and it's worth it.
Right. I totally agree. I know when I first even thought about having any type of show, I started with a live Facebook, and it turned into a real podcast radio show that has reached tens of thousands of people now. But it started with an idea, and it ended with me beginning a radio show. But that was a year process of behind the scenes, trying to figure out, how do I even do this? Where do I go from this? And, last year I was at the podcast movement in Orlando, meeting other podcasters that even stretched me to another mile. So, you have to get out there and you have to meet people and you have to network, and two, you make friends along the way. Mm-hmm. And like you talked about with the trade, you can meet someone that is a photographer and then maybe you know how to create logos, and that person takes pictures for you and you create their logo. I mean, you can do a lot with trade. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Now, do you ever, Melody, take on private clients? for someone that wants to do branding? I know you're super busy with everything that you already do.
No, I don't think I would have the time to. I
I didn't
think,
think so.
but also being I run Boyfriend, but I'm still a partner at DMM, and we definitely have brands and people that come to us that kind of want to recreate what we've done with Boyfriend. And so if I were to take on a brand or someone in that sense, I think I would do it through DMM, because the biggest advantage of that Boyfriend has is that we are co-owned by a creative agency, which is digital media management. So we have access to a lot of things that a startup consumer goods brand doesn't have, like web developers, like a photo studio, like graphic designers. And so taking on a private client, I don't think I would have the time, but if we were to do it through digital media management, it might be feasible because we have a whole team here.
Right. So tell us how we would get in touch with you with the digital media management.
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can message me there. I'm really good at responding there. I'm also, my Instagram is Melody, Melody, Darlene, Darlene. And digital media management is also on Instagram. The tag is We Are DMM. And you can find a lot more about the company there. Again, a lot of it is entertainment, creative agency focus, but the incubator division is something we just started, and Boyfriend being that first brand. And then obviously there's Boyfriend Perfume. You can find us at Boyfriend Perfume on Instagram.
That is amazing. You gave us so much information, more information than I thought I was going to get from you. And so I'm super excited because you answered so many questions, and on top of that gave us so many tips. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time, Melody, and sharing with us. I know someone that is listening is going to just be praising and saying, okay, I know what to do now. I know where to start. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thank you. And guys, remember, step out of your comfort zone, create that brand, create that business, whatever it is that you want to do. This is the time to do it. This is the time to step out and be inspired by what you want to do. Reach out for your passions, create your purpose in life, and let it take you unlimited. You're unlimited in what you want to do. Let it take you to the road of success, and keep your faith in God until next time. Have a blessed week.